Hello and welcome to Talking Points on France 24. Well, the wait is over. Russia is to host the World Cup in 2018 and Qatar will follow in 2022. World football's governing body FIFA announced the decision yesterday in Zurich after a secret ballot of its 22 executive members. The results leave some very sore losers, while Russia and Qatar, who have never hosted the tournament, are of course jubilant. But despite their euphoria, there's considerable unease about the state of FIFA today. A BBC investigation has explored allegations of serious malpractice against 3 senior members of the executive committee. The accusations are not fundamentally new, but they have once again raised the question whether FIFA is too powerful and how accountability can be improved. To discuss these and other issues, I'm joined by Joachim Barbier from SoFoot magazine. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Also with me, Patrick Juillard from the website Foot Africa 365. Hello to you.
Good morning.
Gentlemen, first question about this choice. Overall, what did you make of the decision to ask Russia and Qatar?
I thought before they decided that it would be not the worst choice, but a choice that would mean something of how FIFA works, and it happened. I feel sorry first for the English bid, in a way that they were the most romantic, that their record was based on the love of football, the spirit of the game, and being as well the cradle of the game. And at the end, they decided to hand it over to the countries and the bidders who actually work very closely on each member of the executive committee. What does he want? What does he need? Because they knew exactly that these 22 persons have their own agenda, their own interest, and that their priority is about keeping their influence and keeping their position. So I understand that the losers are bitter since yesterday afternoon, and it's not necessarily a good sign sent by FIFA, the whole body, and FIFA Executive Committee about giving these 2 World Cup to these 2 countries.
I'm not too surprised either, because since Sepp Blatter is the head of the FIFA, football's governing body, he wanted to appear as a pioneer and open new markets. And so he gave the 2002 World Cup to Japan and South Korea. Then he gave this year's World Cup to South Africa. That was the first time in Africa. And now it's going to be the first time in Russia in 2018.
And then
the first time in Qatar, which means the first time in the Middle East. What's a bit surprising is that what was scheduled for 2026 was to give the World Cup to China. And if you follow the unwritten rules of the FIFA, the same confederation could not host the World Cup twice in a row. So they'll have to change this unwritten rule to give the 2026 World Cup to China, which would not surprise me at all, because, as Joachim said, they have their own agenda and they don't really care about what the football lovers throughout the world think of their own decisions.
But how does the lobbying work? I mean, you're basically saying that the Russians and the Qataris were, better than the English at influencing the members of the executive committee?
There's 2 levels. First, for example, it was clear that yesterday they were examining 2018 and 20 and 22. It was clear that if you would go to any Spanish stadium with all this advert for the Qatar bid, that the Spaniards would give their vote to Qatar, and Qatar would give their vote to Spain and Portugal bid. Beside that, there's always discussion, as you say, behind the curtain, and that. It's pretty much the same process that with the Olympic Games, and we know what happened, especially in France, where we still have this bitter taste in the mouth when London has got the Olympics. But it's all about relation, and in a way, it's quite logical that the result from yesterday, because, for example, Mr. Sepp Blatter based his election and re-election on 2 parts of the world. First one is Africa, which has always been very important for him, and Eastern Europe. Qatar, through different bodies, could be the government, it could be some sports agencies, it could be like something which is very important, which is like the sports academy that has been created called Aspire. They've been sponsors so many events, competition from FIFA, youth competition, that at the end we can't say we give it to you, my friend, because you supported us, because you finance us, but it creates relations, and it's all about trying to set up like a personal relationship with a member of this executive committee, and it's exactly what happened.
Yeah, we could talk about Swiss connection, like we did a French connection, and it's true that there's also always a game of returning giving the favors and then returning the favors. And so you could not be surprised to see Qatar win. They had lots of big stars, personalities of football behind them, like Zinedine Zidane, who also has a big connection with Spain, as Joachim emphasized. And so I'm not too surprised. I'm more surprised about Russia, and maybe it's partly because what happened in the English media and press in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I mean, we had the spectacle of David Beckham and Prince William coming to Zurich and obviously making this presentation for England. What went wrong really for the English bid? Do you think it was basically the British journalists essentially that were unpatriotic, so to speak, as some voices in England are now saying?
We need to respect them for not playing the patriotic card and instead doing their job, because actually what they wanted to prove is not that England bid was tarnished by some kind of a corruption attempt, but it was just trying to show, and they proved it in a way that executive committee members were not corrupted, but corruptible, which is different, and it ended up with the suspension of two of them. We know that. We know that. After it just, I think that in a way it tarnished English bid, not in a way that it would be then impossible to give it to the English to the country that pretend that we're corrupted, but in a way that members of this committee and FIFA doesn't want that kind of story around the decision.
I mean, that must have created a certain atmosphere in the decision room, mustn't it?
Because last week, everywhere in the press, you could read that England was totally sure to get at least 6 votes, which meant that they could have gone to at least to the second round, and then they got only 2. Yeah. So I can't believe that based just on the English bid, they could only get 2. That they deserved more. The bid was good. There are good transportation networks in England, modern stadiums everywhere, which is not the case for Russia.
I was going to ask you about Russia because Prime Minister Putin didn't come until afterward to say thank you. I mean, he wasn't lobbying ahead of the vote in the way that the English were. So, how? I mean, is there any way of explaining sort of Russia's relationship with FIFA in this case?
But they kind of put the pressure on FIFA by saying, I think that the day before that English bid was a bit unscrupulous. But it just tells that FIFA is actually rewarding people and government that were using football as a major communication campaign, and that they're using football and the World Cup organization just try to prove that they are back on the global and the world scene as a major player. And it's very different. It's like Russia is some kind of in a revenge logical. Qatar is an emerging
the
player.
thing is that
but all countries use that as a launch pad to show.
As you know, we could say it's a gas, like in the famous Rolling Stones song, because Russia was strongly supported by Gazprom. The Russian bid was strongly supported by Gazprom, and we know the importance of Gazprom in the Russian economy and even in the Western world economy. And Qatar is the third worldwide producer of gas also. So And on the contrary, Spain and Portugal are countries with a big economic crisis at the moment. We have a strong economic backlash of the 90s and 20,000 years, and that's the same for England. You know, there are strong measures against economic crisis at the moment. So Russia and Qatar do not suffer the same thing. So
yeah, I think it's interesting what Patrick just said, is that now a social democracy can't afford to pour 80 billions or 60 billions dollars regarding the effect of the recession. Our public opinion wouldn't accept that our country put 80 billions dollars for just building stadium or organizing a sports event. They don't have these issues in Russia or
Why?
Qatar.
Because Gazprom is going to pay for it?
Yeah, and because it's a different system. You know, you can put, you've got 1.5 million people in Qatar, and everybody seems to be quite wealthy, and there's no recession, and you don't have to spend all this money to social measure to try to cure our economy, and that's just tell us where the money is now.
Yeah. Is there any issue about the image of football in the Middle East needing a boost? I mean, obviously Qatar doesn't need the money in the sense that it's already a very rich state.
Yeah, but I think it's more about just to show to the world that we are now a global player, and because actually football is existing in the Middle East for a long time, and we know how it works. It means that they have a wonderful facilities, and they got the money, especially to attract the players who wants to spend a couple of years before retiring. But there's no passion. There's no football culture there.
In the Maghreb there is. I mean,
it's different.
Yeah, but so we're really talking about two different regions as far as you're concerned.
Totally.
Algeria and Egypt, we remember what passions that ignited. But when you look at the Middle East,
and if you read the Egyptian press this morning, they are very. Then on the one hand, they are happy to see that an Arabic speaking country gets the World Cup, gets to host the World Cup, and on the other end, they said, well, in Egypt we have football fans, big clubs, a great championship, so we would deserve the World Cup, and Egypt had a bid for the 2010 World Cup, and of course South Africa was chosen. Yeah. So that's a disappointment.
In a way, FIFA has decided that World Cup is definitively just a TV show, you know, and I'm sure that this World Cup in Qatar is going to be the World Cup of invitation and free tickets, because the main concern of FIFA is to have empty stadium, and I'm sure that you won't have like 1 million or 2 million fans traveling to Qatar to watch the game.
You wouldn't expect it to have any impact on football culture in the Middle East. I mean, because we're talking, in the neighbors, the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia. I mean, it's not comparable to Egypt, for example.
I don't think so. That in Qatar and in Dubai, for example, Qatar has always positioned itself as a place for sports. They started to organize like tennis open. I think the first one there was probably 14 expats in the stand.
The Asian games.
Yeah, Asian team and all that. But there's countries around there. We have like, for example, Oman as a passion for football. It's just a question is like it's a 1.5 million country. There's probably 300, 400 Qatari citizens. The rest are immigrants from Southeast Asia. So it's like organizing a World Cup in the city of Lyon or Nice and Monaco. It's just that you lack something with like people to go to the stadium.
One of the best points of the Qatar bid is that it's in the middle between Asia and Europe, so it's good for TV networks.
Yeah. Okay, we'll have to end it there. I'm sorry, because we've got a lot more to say, but unfortunately we're out of time. So I'd like to thank Joachim Barbier from So Foot magazine and Patrick Juillard from Foot Africa 365. That's all for this edition of Talking Points.